Right. So let's go back to you.
Yeah.
So I thought you were nicer, but you apparently will do anything to win.
Right.
So let's talk about the lessons from the predictive index. What did Gary Harper, mutual friend, tell you about your predictive index that you did not expect to hear?
Well, he found me at Wholesaling, which we were both at several years ago.
Where I had to go to beg you to come on my first podcast.
Yes. That's when you assumed the sell.
Yes.
And got me on the first time. He talked about how high of a visionary score I had, and the fact that it was off the charts, which means...
Was it the A that he's talking about, or did you actually take a visionary integrator test?
I took whatever he gave me. I didn't go into depth. He asked me to do this. This was for next level flipping at the time. So Ryan Robeson came to me and said, hey, Gary Harper's going to do this for us. Take these tests. I took it. Gary seats me out, and he's like, RJ, like, we need to talk. And he was actually...
And that's his gesture. We need to talk.
No, right. He was like concerned. He's like, you have a very unique score, and there's issues that come along with this. He's like, you need to be
You're going to try to pillage a village.
Yeah. Well, he was like, look, you need to be insulated by your partners. And what he meant by that is that I'm an emotional basket case.
Really?
I can be.
Okay.
Where outside influences can really impact my ability to perform at a high level.
Got it.
And so he was like, you honestly need to surround yourself with the people that you love and care about, and really only listen to their voices, because the outside voices can impact your ability to perform.
Interesting.
And so I thought that was he compared it to Michael Phelps. And he said Michael Phelps is the same way. And he's like, what happens with Michael Phelps is he goes hard, and when he wins, he doesn't celebrate. He goes into a deep depression. So he asked me, he was like, do you struggle with depression? And I've never felt that in my life. But as he started talking to me about different aspects of, hey, when you win, do you not have any joy? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about how I can go win the next one.
Yeah.
And he's like, exactly. And it's funny. I mean, Closers Olympics. I mean, it was like, I smiled. I was excited. But literally, I'm going to my partners, and I'm like, okay, what's next on the agenda here? How are we capitalizing on this? What are we going to do now?
Yeah.
I'm not even. I'm like, you know, they're like, hey, you won this belt. What do you want your name? I'm like, I don't know, just RJ Base III. Come on, just send it to me. I'm already moving on. You know, immediately they asked me, are you going to defend your crown? Hell yeah, I am. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So there's those aspects of it where it's like there's lack of joy for winning, and then also the fact that you can crash really heavily because the vision is off the charts, and sometimes you feel like you never actually succeed because he's like, you have the predictive index of a world changer. You want to change the world, but it's very few people actually change the world.
Right. So
it's going to be hard for you to do that.
Yeah.
And that's where you can fall into that depression. And so, but looking at the score, I mean, just the way it breaks it down, where, you know, most people would probably not realize I'm introverted, you know, which, you know, I probably wouldn't have said that either until it was written out. And I'm like, yeah, I am.
Right.
Like what was it? 3-4 years ago, Ryan Harper asked me to go on Propelio TV for the first time. And I told him, no, I'm scared of lights and cameras. I can't do it. And now I come on here with your big, massive, 5 times the size of mine audience. and you know, I go speak on stages and stuff like that, and it doesn't bother me. But again, that's because it's my passion to win.
Right.
That's kind of overcoming the fear. Right.
Yeah. And that's something that, because if you look at mine, right, because I'm also introverted, right? So I have a high A, not as high as yours. Yours and Max are both off the charts.
Right.
So I have a high A and a low B, meaning I don't want to be talking to people.
Right.
I want to be left alone. Right. Ideal world is that no one's talking to me. Right. And so I asked Austin, who works with Gary, like, how do you explain this? Like, I know a lot of people, and I'm connected. He's like, your desire to win will put you in situations where you're uncomfortable. So even though you're uncomfortable talking to people, your desire to win will force you out of your comfort zone. And that's kind of like what you're doing here. Yeah. You're listening to people.
Exactly.
To win.
Yeah. And I mean, when you go even deeper into the score and you look at all of the different, it literally outlines exactly who I am. And then having someone like Gary come in and really outline like, hey, here's how you can use this as a strength.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because when he's telling me this, I've always had this massive desire to have partners.
Mm-hmm.
So much so I even tell him like, sometimes I just need you there.
Right.
Like, I don't even know what it's for.
Mm-hmm.
Literally just your presence, whether it's a meeting, whether it's being in the office or whatever it is.
Well, I noticed this at wholesaling, right?
Yeah.
Like on stage, you had, I think, Jamie
at the
stage.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and it's funny, and I don't mean this offensively to Jamie because I love her to death and she's my good friend, but it doesn't even matter who it is sometimes.
Right.
But as long as
someone there to
someone there. And Cassie's gotten mad at me before because we've spoken at events and she's like, you railroaded the whole speech. You didn't even let me talk. Why was I even up there? And I'm like, I just needed you up there.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
For me. So it's interesting because Max is the same thing, right? He's got the super high A's off the charts. And Gary came out here December last year. And what he actually said to Max, like, he's looking at me, he's looking at Max. He said to Max, you're not allowed to go to any events without Steve.
That's funny.
Right? Because you will take an idea and run with it,
yep.
right? And it's not that I'm not the same way, but Max is even more extreme. So, but going back to the part where you don't celebrate wins,
mm-hmm.
I've got that same problem,
yep.
right? So confession, right? Like I'm a big time Cardinals fan, followed them forever.
Right.
I have not watched a game this year until this past weekend, right? And
bad weekend.
That was not the event to take my kids to.
Right.
Anyway,
right.
For me, he's like, how can you, like, you're a fan, like, how can you stop watching it? Because I said the upside, the emotional hike of the upside does not even come close to the downside
right.
of when we lose, right? It takes me like 2 days to recover from a bad loss, right? A football off the goalpost, right? In like 3 days, I can't even work.
Right.
And it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in sports. Everything I do, I win. Okay, that was cool.
So funny that you bring this up because sometimes I feel like winning is worse for me than losing.
How's that?
Well, take 2020 Closers Olympics. Mm-hmm. I lost. I immediately came out this rampage, like
guns blazing. Right.
I'm like, we're doing the 50-50-50, and I'm going after the all-in crowd, and
you did.
I'm roasting Aaron Bevins and anyone that'll listen to me, mm-hmm. right? And I want everyone to feel the wrath mm-hmm. of what I'm going to do. I win, and it's like, well, it's really hard to keep trash talking. Like I did it for like 1 day, and then I ran out. I was like, I don't even. What am I doing?
You're afraid to hurt feelings.
Now I'm just rubbing it in their face. It's like, where do I draw that savage motivation? Right.
Right. Well, you gotta be like Michael Jordan, just make stuff up.
I'm a Viking. I went and I took the land, and it's like, that's all y'all had.
What am I gonna do with all this gold?
Right. What do I do now? That's what I get my enjoyment out of.